Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about why you should or shouldn't ask questions in class. So let's just go ahead and dive right on in. Welcome to my second vlog and grab a cup of tea and join me. All right, so this was something that I really struggled with when I first went to college. I would, be in class and maybe have a question or something and just like not raise my hand, not ask when, the teacher gave an opportunity for questions. I just didn't want to do it. But as I found out over time, like if you're looking for the TLDR of this video, it's that in college at least, you're paying for the class, so you should try to get as much out of it as you can, right? It'd be like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet, but then only getting like one dish and that's it. It's like, well, you have all this other stuff. There's so much that you can eat. There's so much you can learn if you just go ahead and ask the question. If you just go ahead and fill your plate, right, take that initiative, then you're really getting your money's worth out of the class. Rather than if you sit back, there are parts of the class that you may be missing out on. So kind of tangentially to this, you need to show up in order to ask questions. I find that just showing up to class, even if it's like, you're going to be a little bit late, or also that kind of depends on your attendance policy, but you're going to be a little bit late, or, you just are like dragging yourself out the door in time to make it. It's important just to be there. And like whatever information you get through osmosis is great, even if you're, half asleep. There's usually something that comes up. That was my experience anyways. And like a little story about this is I showed up early to a music history test one day. And, it was the first class of the day, so we all were led into the classroom and are sitting and just chatting. And somebody mentioned something that I had forgotten to study. Some fact about Haydn or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to study that. So I'll have to remember that in case it's on the test. And guess what? It was on the test. So like showing up early and often, starting to ask questions, this is how you can get the most out of your college classroom experience. So why should you ask questions? Well, one simple reason is that somebody else in the room has that same question. So don't think of it as being like, oh, maybe some people think like, well, it's just being selfish if I'm just taking up all this time, right? Or, maybe people will think that I'm dumb for asking this question. But instead, think of it as I am helping somebody else by asking this question. I mean, it's really true. If you ask a question, somebody else in that classroom has the exact same or really closely related type of question. And so by you asking it, you're actually helping your classmates understand more of the material. And then talking as like from a teaching perspective, if I'm teaching a class and I, explain something, and then a student asks a question about the very thing that I just explained, my first instinct is not, wow, this student is dumb, how could they not get it, right? There's none of that judging going on. Instead, what I'm thinking as a teacher is, wow, this student needs it explained differently, which makes sense, right? I mean, there's usually more than one way to explain a topic or a subject, and in class, oftentimes, it's presented one, maybe two or three ways, depending on how the teacher has constructed the lesson. And so if you're only getting that one way and that one way doesn't make sense to you, go ahead and ask, because chances are the teacher knows a different way of looking at it, but maybe they don't have a lot of time in that lesson, or they didn't think that, this was an important part, or maybe they just forgot. They were going to talk about this second perspective and they never did. But by asking about it, now, you're getting more out of the class because maybe that second perspective worked for you, right? And so now you understand what's happening. You're helping someone else in the classroom because they probably had the same thing where they went, oh, that one way didn't really make sense to me, but the second way did. And so you're just like really contributing positively to the classroom when you ask questions. And that leads me to my kind of final point, which is like, the more you ask questions, the better you'll get at asking questions. You'll start to understand like, oh, if I ask questions like a certain way, I'm more likely to get an answer that benefits my learning and my understanding, right? Because there's like different ways you can phrase things or say things. And, you might also like depend on the professor. And so by asking questions, you then start realizing how to dialogue with the professor a bit more. And that is how you then, you can get the most out of your learning. There's less time being like, wait, but what about this? What about that? It's just like, I want to know about this. Oh, sure. Here's your answer. Okay, that makes sense. That's where I was confused. So not only are you like refining your own understanding and learning about yourself, but you are, then again, helping other people and this sort of thing. I know there's a little bit of social pressure with asking questions, so I'm just asking that, try to get over that. Try to just be bold, ask those questions, realize that you are not only helping yourself reach the max value out of the classroom, but you're helping other people get the max value out of the classroom too. So it's really, it can be kind of like a selfless thing, even though part of it is selfish, maybe. And then as the final like cap on all this, if you're interested in teaching and you're like, maybe really good at whatever subject, it's a lot of review for you. We see this a lot in music theory because like people have taken AP music theory, but they're still like going through the college level theory stuff. So they know all this already. Right? And so if you're interested in being a teacher and you're already really well versed in the material, see if you can anticipate questions on the topics, right? Watch the teacher, how they explain things and go, ooh, I could see how someone would get confused by that. Or, wow, that wasn't actually very clear. And then you can take the lead and ask a question. Even though you already know what the answer is, you're kind of like the perfect person to ask the question because you know what the answer is. And you're helping the teacher clarify their points by just asking a question. Oh, I didn't actually understand about the inversion. So why do we put a 6 next to the Roman numeral, right? Because maybe that got a little bit glanced over. Oh, well, the 6 means it's a first inversion where we have the third in the base. Oh, okay, the third in the base. Thank you, right? You're kind of like helping the class because sometimes I feel like when you teach the same stuff over and over and over again, and depending on time or whatever else, it's hard to remember like what you have and haven't covered, and you may like skip over something like that. Like, oh yeah, the 6 means first inversion, or maybe you know what first inversion is, but like you've heard that term. Okay, a 6 is first inversion, but what is a first inversion, right? Well, that's when you have the third of the chord in the bass as the lowest note. So then it's like, oh, okay, you. Like as someone who's kind of well versed in that material, you can then help the class along and make the whole experience better for everyone. So those are just some thoughts. I guess why you shouldn't ask questions. The one thing that comes to mind is when it's like the very end of class and the teacher's like, oh, okay, I think I could let you go a little early unless anyone has questions. That's really the social pressure thing. Even then, if you have questions, you should ask them because sometimes the lesson ends early because the teacher didn't cover everything as thoroughly, right? Even though they think they did. And this is not, I'm not trying to like knock professors here and say like, oh, they're never prepared, they don't cover things the right way. I'm just saying that like, teachers are human. And there have been times, maybe it's once a year or once every couple of years where I'm in a class and it's like, I don't think we covered this well enough. Or I think, I need more information to really understand what's happening. And that's, 2 minutes left in class. Okay, any questions? Otherwise you can leave early. And it's like, yeah, actually, what about this? And then, oh yeah. You should know this for the test. And it's like, oh, good. I'm glad I asked. So yeah, it just happens, right? It's part of being human, being a teacher, working and being busy, other things on your plate, that sort of thing. So like questions are great. Questions are absolutely essential in the classroom. So you can help yourself, help others, help the teacher. It's just like a great way, a great tool to make things happen. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you like these kind of vlogs, let me know. I am going to do a few more here and there as I kind of come up with some ideas. And if you have any ideas of something you'd like to hear me talk about, you can leave a comment below. If you have a chance, please check out my Patreon. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.